Welcome to Eagles Uncovered, presented by the Undroppables. I'm Brad Wakai. That's Tyson Gentry. We are taking over for the rest of the season here on this channel, talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. Tyson, we will introduce ourselves here. What a week to start, though. I mean, it's the most rocking chair game the Eagles have had in what feels like years, and so we don't get to come on here and scream and yell, but we'll still talk about the Philadelphia Eagles after their dominating performance over the Giants.
No, I was texting you. I was like, this is the most comfortable win we've had in 18 months. And then I started going back through. This team hasn't won a game by like multiple scores since like week 14 of 2022 or something like that. We really are like a year and a half away from putting our feet up and watching a football game.
It is crazy. So for the Eagles fans out there who are tuning in, I'm Brad Wakai. I'm a Penn State graduate and Eagles fan my whole life. Dad's from South Jersey. I'm from Montana. It's where I met Tyson. We've been covering sports for a long time, something that we did back in high school. And I don't even want to say how long ago it feels or was at this point. But, you know, we've been doing a podcast for a while, and we've been talking about the Eagles on our personal side of things. We're happy to be part of the Undroppables family, covering the Eagles for Uncovered. And Tyson, I'll let you introduce yourselves before we get into what happened.
Yeah, my name is Tyson, right there on the bottom of the screen, Tyson Gentry. I'm also from Montana, so if you're seeing some of these teams and stuff behind me don't make sense, it's because I got to pick my own. Growing up, wasn't pigeonholed. But we're here. We're ready to rock with Philly, and we might not have gotten in here until week 7, but we're going to be here until 17, and hopefully 3 or 4 more after that.
All right, Tyson, let's jump in because this is exactly what us as Eagles fans envisioned. The team brought in Saquon Barkley. Right, you bring in a legit running back, and I've been on record, and it hasn't been on here, but you know, the first time that he played in front of the offensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles, I said he would be Barry Sanders if he was a part of the Philadelphia Eagles and not the New York Giants from the first time he stepped foot in the NFL. We saw that, right? Almost went for his career high, made all those Giants fans who were booing him eat it, and what a great feeling it had to be for Saquon Barkley to come back into MetLife and beat the New York Giants. What did you think of his return? What did you think of him as part of this offense? And what did you think of the game that he had?
Well, poetic, really, right? I mean, he's walking in, they're burning jerseys. I get it, like being upset. And the Eagles fans right now, I'm right there with you. You can't be booing this guy. Joe Shane's an idiot. He didn't even offer him a deal. We all saw the Hard Knocks. Yeah, but if Smitty signs with, I'm not even going to say a team because I'll throw up in my mouth, but we'll be feeling the same way. So I do get it from the fan perspective. But I believe that's the most yards he's ever had at MetLife Stadium, and it was in a Bears jersey, and he looked good doing it. It was a quiet first quarter. We'll get into that, but 55 yards around the edge. He reaches almost 22 miles an hour and just says, I'm here. And then the third quarter happens, and it's just more and more snowballing. This dude is special. I'm hearing a lot of talk. Oh, he's the best Philadelphia Eagles running back since when? We all know the answer, right? It's shady, and that's being really kind. LaShawn McCoy is awesome, but what Saquon Barkley is, like, the freakiness level is something this team has been missing. And Brett, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but I did have to watch Miles Sanders yesterday a little bit, and I was just like, oh, man, remember?
Yeah, both Penn State guys. So I got to see both of them, and now they're on the Eagles. So I got the light version, the Miles Sanders experience early on, and then I always knew how special and explosive Saquon was. You know, I was at school the same time that he was, and so you know he's always been he's always had a soft spot in my heart. And then he has to go to the Giants and break that soft spot. So him coming home to Philadelphia and being a part of this Eagles team is great, and I'm super excited. And for him to have a dream start, the most rushing yards that has happened through the first 6 weeks in the Philadelphia Eagles history by any running back. I mean, it's just incredible. And you just see how incredible he's been.
I think it's the most rushing yards through 6 games since Saquon had that record as a New York Giant, right? So this is a guy that is putting his stamp all over the place, and we should probably say a little bit more than just the soliloquies here. He had 176 yards, 17 carries. That's essentially in 3 quarters of work. We all have heard the story. Nick Sirianni said, "Do you want to go get the record?" He said, "Let the other guys eat." Siri goes to the podium, or man, you're special. And I think we knew he was special. And I think the biggest takeaway I had is at the podium, Saquon's like, I'm glad this is over. I just want to put this thing behind me and go play ball. And I think that's how the Giants felt and everybody else. We don't need to pick on John Mara, right? We saw it. We don't need to pick on Joe Shane. We saw it. We don't need to pick on Brian Daboll. We don't need to pick on Daniel Jones for throwing for 99 yards. This is about Saquon coming back home. There was a couple homecomings here. Bryce Huff, we'll talk about him a little bit. I know it's a different team, but him and Mekhi Becton both coming back to a field where they have some pretty poor Eagles finally able to put together I can't say 4 quarters, but they put together 3 quarters of really good football.
Let's talk about the rest of the offense, because Saquon Barkley is garnering the headlines, and that's going to be national. But, us as Eagles fans, we're taking a look at the entire thing. And so we'll talk about the defense a little bit because they put together another good performance. We'll get into how we think they're going to do against the Cincinnati Bengals next week. But let's talk about this offense because that's really been generating a lot of the heat locally. Once again, no first quarter points. Once again, Jalen Hurts goes 10 of 14, 114, then that touchdown. Didn't have to do a whole lot through the air. And honestly, didn't really ask him to do a whole lot. And a 119.3 passer rating, you'll take that on the day's work when you dominate a division opponent. Where are you at with this offense? What's your thoughts now that we've seen 2 in a row that it's good enough to get something done?
Run the ball, win the game. I think that's the Eagles' mantra essentially, and we've been asking for it as fans. We got it. There's 40 times they turned around and handed the ball off to the tune of 1 billion yards. It felt like they could get whatever they wanted. We had a Kenny Gainwell sighting, like he looked explosive out of nowhere. And this is a Giants defense that I think they were leading the league in sacks coming into this one, and Jalen took 3 or 4, and we can kind of talk about those. But it's really it's hard to nitpick a guy that only threw the ball 14 times. So he missed Devontae Smith on a wide open crosser there. That's 3rd down, and it's overshadowed a little bit because then he hot routes to A.J. Brown for the bomb touchdown, 41 yards. Who's throwing that on 4th and 3, right? So the Giants aren't exactly sitting there expecting that. But if you want to go farther in the season, you have postseason aspirations like this Eagles team does, he's got to take those on 3rd down. That was wide open. And so it worked out this time. It may not work out in the future. He misses Saquon Barkley for a walk-in touchdown. That one, to me, felt a lot like maybe he was just trying to feed Devontae Smith and say thank you for taking the back seat today because his eyes were locked on 6 as he was kind of running across the end zone. But, Brad, I think the best play in the game that I wrote down in my notes here for Jalen Hurts was the run at the goal line that essentially he gets it by a yard. He bounces off the tackler and picks up the 1st down. Huge. The Eagles going to keep the drive going. But that was one of the first times this season I've seen him go through all progressions and then come back to the first guy and decide, now I'm going. Now I'm bailing on the pocket, where even earlier in this game, it was the first sign of pressure. Ball is down. I got to get out to my right somewhere.
Yeah, and that's interesting you say that because I was noticing that too. And I think he was helped out a lot by, dropping 8 or 7 and really not being able to get a pass rush from the Giants would allow him to be comfortable to do that. But I think that is a good point because early in the game, I was texting you and I'm like, dude, this guy just cannot handle pressure. And it's frustrating for me. And, there is times when he is getting pressured and you're texting me back. He's like, what are you supposed to do? And I'm like, I agree. But this guy's been in the league now and he's getting paid like one of the top guys in the NFL. You got to handle pressure in the blitz better. And now we'll take a look at the all-22 and we'll see, what the options were and things like that from his angle, not just the TV broadcast. But at times I'm like, you got to figure something out here because you're not going to win a Super Bowl this way. And that's ultimately what the ceiling is, or that's what the expectation is here. And Tyson, I think that's great point that you're pointing out down in the goal line here. For me, the best play he had was when he had that long scramble and kind of the same thing. Look through. Okay, nobody's open. It looked like I was getting swallowed up, and we saw him go down earlier in the game. Not this time. He stayed on his feet. He blasted through, showed that speed that we were accustomed to 3 years ago, got the big 1st down, flexed to the crowd, and boom, here we go. Let's get on the bus and go home. That to me was like, okay, Jalen Hurts, it's starting to feel like he's getting a little bit more confident. I don't know if it's in the Kellen Moore offense. I don't know if he's just like trusting himself again. You and I both, and our new listeners, they haven't heard us say this. We both thought he was injured last year, some hindrance in his knee or whatever the case may be. So I think he's finally getting to the point where he's like, oh, no, I can be fast and explosive on the way out of here. So I think it's interesting that we both highlighted 2 things where he went through the read and then used his legs.
Yeah, so he doesn't always suck, everybody out there that's looking for a dark cloud. Also, maybe a little bit more animated Jalen Hurts than we're used to seeing. I mean, he's yelling. It was easier to see in the kind of cutaway to commercial than you could see on the field. And as you said, we've only seen the TV copy so far. We got to dig in a little bit more to see. But we've been begging for that, man. It's fun when he's a robot and you're beating everybody by 40. It sucks when he's a robot and you're getting blown out by the 49ers and the Cowboys or whoever else. But this was a really encouraging start here. The start was the worst part about it, Brad. Let's actually get into that right now, because if we're going to talk about all the positives on offense, let's talk about how the team started another game with an illegal formation penalty on the opening kickoff. That's something that cannot happen. second drive. You pick up 5 on the first down. It's 3rd and 5 later. In that drive, Landon Dickerson false start. It's 3rd and 10, leads to Hurts taking a sack. That's also in the first quarter. You can't do that. And then, Brad, the worst play call of the game is a wildcat snap to say, like, what are we doing? That play sucked. The Smitty, is he going to pitch it? Is he not going to pitch it? I don't know what the point is on that. But this is a team that continually shoots themselves in the foot and at inopportune times. Luckily, this was only in the first quarter. And one thing we didn't mention with Jalen Hurts is 0 turnovers. Like, that's huge.
Yes.
And that allows you to have games where you can just turn around and hand the ball off because you're not in a negative game script the whole time. But it's some of these unforced errors that really get them out of the rhythm in the first quarter. They're still the only team in the NFL that hasn't scored, and that has to change, especially as you look ahead in the schedule.
Yeah, and it's interesting that this is the thing for the Eagles, right? I mean, 2 years ago, when they went to the Super Bowl, it was, let's get off to fast starts. We get up early and we eat, right? And then it's a machine. Last year, we were pulling my proverbial hair out. You got a little bit more than me up top, but us as fans are like, what is happening? Why is this so different? The change in play caller. You and I both are. We have our thoughts on Brian Johnson, and then we thought Kellen Moore was going to come in and fix this. Now, Tyson, I will say it is a slow, sleepy start, but they're 1 drop pass from Saquon Barkley away from being 5-1, and they're not scratching the surface of what they can do offensively. So I think let's take that into account, us as fans, because we're like, what's going on? Like, why are they putting themselves in this situation? To me, they peaked early last year. Like, they peaked halfway through the year, and then they fell apart because that was their plateau. If there's still things that they can work and improve on, that's honestly what we saw when they went to the Super Bowl. They just kept getting better and better and better. So what's the issue? I honestly, my personal opinion, they're still getting used to this Kellen Moore offense. They're figuring things out. They're shooting themselves in the foot, like you said. Is that because they're antsy? Is it because they want to execute this game plan? They know they need to get out to a fast start. I'm not quite sure. But I think it's going to come the more times that we see them get used to Kellen Moore, get used to this offense. Tyson, how many times did we see Jalen Hurts under center? Whoa. And what do you know? Saquon Barkley runs for 176. This running game looks great. They've been saying it for a long time. Put Hurts under center. Let's do drop back play action, or let's just get Saquon Barkley downhill. I think once they figure everything out and everybody gets comfortable, we'll see these points. But I agree. It's got to happen, especially next week, which we'll talk about later. And
as we kind of go throughout the season, you guys are going to learn I have kind of a contrarian view sometimes when it comes to things. And I know this isn't the Kellen Moore offense that we were promised. And is it Nick's or is it Kellen's? Is it Jalen's? What's going on? Sometimes it's really hard to coach when you have all these toys, right? Like Goddard doesn't play in this one, so he's out of the equation a little bit. But I think throughout the first 6 games of this year, you can tell, well, is it supposed to go to AJ? Is it supposed to go to Devontae Smith? Is this one where we're supposed to scheme up Goddard plays? And then the elephant in the room is like 26 is the best player in the NFL right now. Or Derrick Henry's about to play. Let's be respectful as far as the way seasons are going right now. But it's like it's hard to – we're seeing it with Mike McDaniel, and I know it's a different thing with Tua out, but they started really slow, and we were used to the Dolphins coming out and scoring 1 billion points and everybody. Sometimes when you have too many nice cars in the garage, you don't know what you want to take out. And I think that they're understanding that Saquon Barkley is the engine to this thing. Mm-hmm. But we're in week 7. It's a long season to go, relying on running back. So 17 carries is fantastic here. I'm actually glad he didn't go back in the game. But I think if you're going to nitpick the offense a little bit, it's going to be Hurts missing Devontae Smith. It's going to be starting really slow. But at the end of the day, man, we're not going to get another one of these opportunities to come on a podcast, especially the inaugural one, and say, wow, the Eagles handled business the whole time.
Well, we don't think, because Tyson, I got to say, as we put the bow on the offense, the defense, my man, whoa, can we just wow, what a great feeling it was to see the Philadelphia Eagles defense fly around. That was the thing. They looked fast. Like, they had speed, and it was like, I remember last year when they were playing, I think it was New England Patriots, and even though that game was close, it was like, dude, this defense is just moving at a different level. Like, you watch the San Francisco 49ers and that defense, you're like, that defense is fast. Now, not so much this year. They, eye test wise, have taken a huge step back team speed wise, but last 3 years, dude, the Niners just move way faster than everybody else. The Eagles had that for a while, and last year they were stuck in mud. It was disgusting. For Tyson, they're moving downhill. They're going side to side. They're getting a great pass rush. Now, the Giants' offensive line is horrible, and the Browns' offensive line is horrible. So we'll take this with a grain of salt. But if they hadn't done that, and if they hadn't looked that way, we would have been way more concerned, right? And so I think this is a step in the right direction. What's your thoughts on where we're at with the defense? Are you feeling more confident? Is it fool's gold? Like, where's your head at?
I'm feeling more confident. I think that everyone should be. This is a Vic Fangio in year one. We talk about it all the time. He's one of the most revered defensive coordinators in the NFL. His year ones haven't been great, and it takes some time to figure these things out. One of the things that I've learned the last couple of weeks is that, and maybe this isn't going to hold true as we look ahead to the Cincinnati Bengals and the weapons they have, but Vic seems to be more interested in creating pressure rather than playing soft coverage and just rushing forward. He's saying, let's go be aggressive. Let's go downhill. I know it was the Browns and the Giants, but the Eagles team hasn't allowed 0 touchdowns in back-to-back games since Jim Schwartz. And so for all you Johnny Gans people out there, the defense was really good statistically for a while, but they played a lot of bad quarterbacks too. So anytime that you can hold two teams to 0 offensive touchdowns over the course of 2 weeks, that's pretty special. And as far as the team speed thing goes, Brad, we've been begging for some youth infusion on the defense for essentially like what feels like the last decade, right? And Quinyon Mitchell is a dog, and he's fast. And Nakobe Dean is confident out of nowhere. And maybe that was just because he didn't have to play any coverage. It was like go down and check the running back, and if he's not going out for a route, try to get to the quarterback. We'll see if those things hold up. But these kids can play, and they're fast, and they're hungry. I am very interested, Brad. Did Jordan Davis only play 11 snaps because the game was out of hand, or and they were in nickel for like a ton of it? Maybe he's just not playing in nickel anymore, or was this a Vic Fangio saying, man, I like a Jumma?
I think it's the latter. Me personally. Now, I could be proven wrong, and it comes out, and Jordan Davis plays a ton of snaps against the Bengals. Tyson, we know one thing. Vic Fangio immediately came in. Now, he was a consultant previously, right? The Eagles wanted him to be the defensive coordinator last year. He went to Miami. But he's been around the organization. He has stated Jordan Davis needs to lose weight. Jordan Davis needs to get in shape.
Calling it fat, people.
Now, let's be honest here. We watched Jordan Davis. Are we like, oh my God, this guy looks like he's in great shape for a defensive tackle? Not really. And so I think if you're the coach, you're the defensive coordinator, and you've seen, holy smokes, like we're having problems up front. It's because it's not just the lack of pass rush. Tyson, they're getting gashed on the ground, and that didn't happen in this one when it could have. And what's the common denominator? Jordan Davis on the sideline. I'm curious to see where this goes. Tyson, if he turns into a rotational piece, that's a miss by Howie, but at least it's something. At least he can be effective in some sort of role, and we'll take that. But I'm with you, man. The Nakobe Dean thing, to me, okay, don't put him in coverage. Like this isn't like complicated, right? Play the guy to his strengths. Like, why are you going to have him out there trying to cover a slot or a tight end when you know he can't do it? Have him play downhill, have him be fast, have him be explosive, and use the skills that he showed at Georgia. I mean, I'm glad it feels like they're figuring it out, and maybe it just took a little bit for Vic to be like, okay, I think this is how he can play around. Like, again, it takes time for the Vic Fangio defense. But that was the most encouraged I've been by watching this. And Cooper DeJean, my guy, looks fast, looks strong. He does everything on the field. Like you said, the young guys are here, and it's exciting to see.
Oh, and the dogs were barking. On the thumbnail here, you probably noticed Nolan Smith. We were trying to figure out, does it go to Jalen Carter? He had 2 sacks. Does it go to Nakobe Dean? He had 2 sacks, and he was awesome. But we had to give Nolan some love here. This was the best game he's ever played as an Eagle, and I don't think it was close at all. I mean, this is a guy who is talking smack. Like, you can zoom in on his lips and see him curse out somebody with a strong arm out. He's hitting people. He's fast. And on Jalen Carter's second sack, he gets up immediately and points at Nolan. But like, outlet pass, right? Like, you got me that bucket. Thank you very much for that. And that was the first time this season, even more so than the Browns game, where I felt like the defense was working in unison, like a marriage, essentially between the back end and the guys getting after the passer. And that's where you want to be. And I wrote in my notes, Brad, I wrote OMG defense got a sack for like the first 4 of them. And then I was just like, this is just how today's going. They get 8 of them. Bryce Huff gets off the milk carton a little bit, 5 pressures and 18 pass rush opportunities. That's what you brought him here to do. This was a all-around effort. But, Brad, Quinyon Mitchell should have 4 interceptions. And I
Yeah, he
don't think
should.
he's not getting any love nationally. I don't think as far as that goes. I think Eagles fans are recognizing what he's doing, but these splash plays are coming. Like that's kind of where I'm at. Is he's going to continue to get tested by people. Welcome to the league, and he's going to score.
Well, that's my question. Are you concerned that they haven't happened yet? Because a couple of them, it's like, dude, you got to make those plays.
No.
Okay.
Dude,
All right.
sitting here on an Eagles podcast, that's the one thing with the defense, though, for real, is that they do need to create more turnovers. It's awesome when you can hold a team to 3 points, but you're not going to play Daniel Jones every week, or Daniel Jones and Drew Lock, that weird combo. Yeah, shout out to the Giants for just nuking his confidence one more time after he gets killed by everybody. But I'm not concerned about it. As far as Quinn and Mitchell getting more or not having the interceptions that we want. This one would have been the highest degree of difficulty by a mile. And I think in the Packers game to start the year, when he just sprinted through with his hand up, it was almost like the button stuck when you're playing Madden or something, and just 2 hands, he scores a touchdown there probably. Right. But this is a guy, the defense did a heck of a job on Malik Neighbors. 4 for 41. First play of the game is a catch for 12 yards, and it's just like, oh, no, we're going to have to deal with this guy for the next decade. That's going to stink. And then they kind of put him in jail. And that speaks more to the Vic Fangio ability to just say, you know what, this is what they do well. I believe that we can stop Devin Singletary and Eric Gray and Tyrone Tracy running the football, and we're focusing on number 1. I mean, Malik Neighbors quitting on a route was not something I had on my bingo card going up against Quinn and Mitchell, and it was nice to see. And the return of Darius Slay. I mean, they're back there. They're talking smack, dude. I loved every second of it.
Yeah, it was nice to see Darius Slay focused and not worried about who's playing what video games or whatever. But no, I say that in jest. I mean, these guys are pro athletes, but some people, it's like, what, do you not mess around at work? I know it's different, but like, geez, Pete. So Nolan Smith, to me, I do want to highlight him a little bit more because I've been hard on him since he's been drafted by the Eagles. I borderline called him a bust. Now, I don't like doing that, and you'll understand it. And if we do this for a long time here on Uncovered, Eagles fans, and we like to be measured, and we hate overreacting, and it's something that's kind of our ethos. I was close to just saying this ain't going to work. Now, the one thing with Nolan Smith that I've always appreciated, though, and Tyson knows this because even if he's not being productive and even if he's getting blown up on chips by running backs, he plays really hard. And you can't teach motor. Like, you can teach skills, you can teach how to beat pass blocks, you teach how to not get blown up on chips, but you can't teach effort and you can't teach hustle. And that was on full display. The guys running stretch plays, use that 4-3 speed, 4-4 speed, stretching the running back out, pushing them wide, come and make a tackle on the cornerback, using speed to allow Jalen Carter to go and bull rush on the inside. If that's the type of player, and that's what you're going to get in spurts, that's the player that they envisioned. That's the player that Howie Roseman envisioned when they went back up and got him late first. Because we're like, oh my God, they're just adding this guy on top of this haul with Jalen Carter. Didn't look like that was going to pay off, right? It was kind of a risk. Super small, super thin as he's transitioned to the linebacker. But if you're going to get what you just saw against the Giants on a consistent basis, or at least like a high-level performance like that where you have high motor and you're at least stressing the offensive line, Tyson, I think this is going to work, and I think Nolan Smith is going to be a great draft pick.
It is amazing what guys can do when they're having fun playing football. That was the first time there's smiles all around and everybody gets to eat. That's a different thing than these guys have been living in the pressure cooker, essentially. Nick Sirianni can't brush his teeth in the morning without getting criticized, right? And like, we're going to get plenty, I'm sure, over the next 10 weeks here. But I was really encouraged all the way around, Brad. And do you have any more thoughts on the defense? Because I do have a special teams question for you.
That's good in the special teams. I mean, I'm too proud of the defense to nitpick them right now.
I don't have anything for him. I mean, 119 total yards. What are you going to say? That's a good job and a pat on the back. We have been guilty at times of underrating Britton Covey's return ability, and we hear it all the time. He leads the league, or he's almost at the top of the league, and return average and all of that stuff. Does it not kind of feel like Cooper DeJean just has a little bit different gear as far as like return? Like, Britton Covey is an awesome return man. If Britton Covey ever takes one to the house, I'm going streaking down my street here right in front of my house, where every time Cooper DeJean touched that, I was like, oh, no, he might score.
Well, the other thing, too, that Cooper is thicker, right? Like, he has more of a body to him. And so he's like taking hits, and you're not worried that he's going to fumble. Yeah, he's right. He's a country fed. Shout out to Iowa. Thanks for giving us the best white athlete you had in the state very much appreciative, especially for some characters like us. But Cooper DeJean is somebody that we were both extremely high on in the process. We're like, man, he would be great, because he not just gives you the cornerback thing, or if he's nickel, or if he's a safety eventually, but he gives you the return game. Go watch what he did at Iowa in the Big Ten. Well, Tyson, I don't like being this guy, but there might not be a need for Britton Covey on this roster going forward, because let's just say he's not the return guy. You're going to have Will Shipley being the kickoff guy. You're going to have Cooper being the punt guy. And, with the addition of Jahan Dotson, I don't know if there's a roster spot for Covey. We'll get him going. I guarantee you there's one game, and, they kind of alluded to it. Jalen Hurts did. Watch out for him in the Commanders game. Jahan Dotson may have a big game in store, and that's coming from Jalen's mouth.
Bro, I swear that if I have to come on here afterwards and talk about the Eagles' offense looking like crap because they were trying to force feed Jahan Dotson for 60 minutes, I'm going to punch a hole through my screen. But we only have a couple minutes left here. Let's take a look ahead to the Bengals game. Yeah. We know about the weapons, and I'll let you kind of talk about that more with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and all of those guys. Brad, I'm most worried for what's going to look like, what this Eagles offensive line is going to look like without Mailata. It should be Fred Johnson. This is a heck of an assignment to get here. This is not playing the New York Giants. This is Trey Hendrickson. And that's a guy that Fred seems to struggle when guys get right into his body. That's kind of been the MO on him since he's come into the league. And I think that's how Hendrickson wins. So I think that's an underrated part to look at next week.
Yes, that's a good point, because we're looking at this from the Eagles' perspective. They're going to eat up this Bengals offensive line, which they should. Burrow can get the ball out quick. I'm happier that Vic Fangio is trusting these guys to play a little bit more physical coverage, because, God, if they were sitting off and you just let him throw slants to Chase and Higgins, let's just pack it up and go home. I don't think that's going to happen this week. I think they're going to play bump. I think they're going to press, especially with Mitchell. And they're going to allow Burrow can kind of hesitate, because he's going to hold on to the ball a little bit, which he does, and then the guys can get home. But I think that's a great point that you had. How does this offensive line look? Because they're going to they're not going to go Hendrick. We could go beat Lane Johnson. We could our best guy against your best guy. That's stupid. They're not going to do that.
That's not big Lou.
They're going to go, okay, let's go on the other side. It's Jalen's blind side too. Good God, help us all. And is he going to be able to feel it? Is he going to be able to beat this, or is he going to hold on to it? Is he going to get uncomfortable? So I think that's great. Tyson, does that mean that Saquon Barkley is less of a factor because they're going to have to chip more? They're going to have to bring somebody in. Is Kenny Gainwell in more because he's the better blocking running back? Well, at times, but there's a lot of questions here. Is it more max protect? Is it really just 1v1 on the outside with Smith and A.J. Brown? And let's go win on the outside. That's what I'm wondering here.
And if it is, then I think that's a good thing for the Philadelphia Eagles, because that means you got your two best playmakers on the outside there singled up. We'll see if that's the way it plays out. On the flip side, we just talked a lot about these rookie corners. If they're not traveling, it's going to be Cooper DeJean on Jamar Chase in the slot at times. It's going to be Quinyon Mitchell matched up with big body T. Higgins on the outside one-on-one at times. And I'm more excited than anything just to watch these guys go. I'm not going to come on here next week and say these guys stink and they can't play because they just got destroyed by two of are the Bengals second, third, fourth in the league at wide receiver tandem? I mean, they're up there. So this is a huge test for these guys. And I'm excited. This is a feeling I haven't known in quite a while as a Philadelphia Eagles fan here, man.
Okay, let's do this. This is our first time doing this. We'll tweak it a little bit. A prediction on the game. Do the Eagles win? Yes or no?
I think Philly gets it done. I think that they found something here. But the flip side, Brad, the Bengals got to get this. They're in go mode. The Steelers just won't go away. They keep creeping up the division. We'll see what happens with the Ravens game tonight. But the Bengals might be staring up at the top of the division thinking we got to go have this one. I hope Philadelphia is in the same mindset there. But I do think Philly should be able to just run the ball for 200 yards on this team.
I think the Eagles win as well. I think they get after it. Joe Burrow doesn't have a lot of time to throw. They block enough. The Eagles do. Jalen Hurts, there may be a turnover, but I think they do enough on offense. I think this is when they score. I'll put it this way. They're going to score in the first quarter in this game. They're going to get off to a fast start. They're going to put Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals offense into one dimension. They get sacks. They get pressure. They wreak havoc. That's my prediction. Now, Tyson, I want to hear a bold prediction. Are you calling somebody to get a sack, a strip sack? Is somebody going for 200 yards? Is Saquon breaking his right? What's your bold prediction of this one before we get out?
My bold prediction of this game is going to be, oh man, because I can't say that it's going to be a Calcaterra touchdown because Jalen only throws the ball to 3 guys, right? So it kind of limits what you can and can't do. How about this? My bold prediction is Quinion Mitchell gets his first NFL interception.
Okay, mine's going to be Darius Slay gets an interception. Big play Slay is back. He's going to be talking, and we're going to be liking him again as an Eagles fan here on and the Eagles fandom across the country. But that's going to do it for us here on Eagles Uncovered, presented by the Undroppables. I'm Brad Wakai. That's Tyson Gentry. We'll be back breaking everything down coming out of the Cincinnati's Bengals game. We're still figuring out our schedule going forward. We'll be more consistent. Hopefully you guys come and join us and let us know what you think in the comments. We'd love to build a community with y'all. Let's go Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. Let's go win on Sunday. Talk to you guys later.